I've really not done a lot of these. I did one of these once before. But these are big saws, a little bit older design. And what I have to do with this one here is replace the cases. And partly because whoever had worked on this saw once before snapped the screws off inside the cases for the cover. This one's going to get torn all the way down, and it's going to get a whole new set of cases. But while we're looking at this saw, let's take a look at the layout of the saw, because it is a little different than what we're used to seeing from Husqvarna. Well, you know, cylinder and all that's the same. Button here, that's for the cover. Some interesting things. The handle has the standard 2-point on the tank handle combination, spring to the cylinder, and underneath it connects there, like most of them do. Tank handle combination. But look at that there, you have a spring that goes vertical on both sides. I don't know if the camera shows that. As compared to having them this way, these are actually vertical. So it is slightly different than a 372. This air pressure from the flywheel into the air box is common. It's got this goofy looking decomp on the wrong side. I don't know if you saw that. Here's the vertical springs. Anti-vibe. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the flywheel off of there, and I'm going to get the clutch off. That's my mission right now. And then after I do that, I'm going to break down the top end and get it apart, then take the handle off. Something along those lines in that order. But look at the size of that big old Walbro. It's got a boot like the other ones. I see this plastic in here. You know, it's just different. It's a different design. It's big. Did I mention that? It's really big. Big old saw. So what I'll do is, as I tear this apart, I'll take snapshots of the progress as we work along. I added a new tool to the shop, and this is effectively an impact wrench. And I'm going to use it to take things apart, not so much put them together because it has too much torque, but to get the screws out of the cases and, you know, cylinders and stuff like that. This thing here is going to save me some time. I zipped the handle off already, so let me shut the camera off, get some air on this, blow it off, you know, clean it up some, and then we're going to take the flywheel and the clutch off. It's a little tricky to get this out. I had to pop the plug cap off and push it through in order to get the clearance to allow that to come out. You know what this saw reminds me of? It reminds me an awful lot of the big old John's thread, like 2094s and things like that. It just looks like kind of an update on that design. But I don't understand, because it looks like this one had been apart before, because you notice there's supposed to be a screw right there. That's missing. I'm going to get the ignition and the wire out of there, so when I start spinning off the flywheel and stuff, I don't wrap these wires up and make a mess of them. God, there's got to be a way for that to come out. Look at that. See, it goes in like this. That is takes a little thought. Get that out of the way. Is it cracked? Nope. But it doesn't have the standard 4mm on that ignition. What I'm going to try to do on this is see if I can lift the whole cylinder, muffler, and carburetor assembly off without disassembling those gaskets and seals. And not so much that I want to make it easier on myself, but I'm one of those people who believes that the less things that you disturb with sealing surfaces, the better. So instead of disassembling all that, you know, take it off in one big unit. Okay, it's a straight 3mm. what I'm going to do is use these cups right here to put in the critical parts. Alright, now I feel comfortable in putting that on my famous rag solution and zipping off the clutch. Shut the camera off. It looks like I can rattle that thing off with a 3/4 inch impact. We're going to find out. Always got to remember these damn things are reverse thread. That's it. The size of that damn thing. Just everything on this saw is big. That's all you have to know. This is the oil pump and the worm gear for that. Figure what I'll do next is pop off the flywheel and just see if my standard strategy works. So I used a butterfly, a 13mm, to take off the nut, and there's a washer in there underneath the nut. So I've got to make sure I keep those so I can put them back together that way. Crank on that a little bit pressure, not too much, and then just tap it with a hammer, lift and tap. Yep. Alright, the thing that's going to make this tricky is, believe it or not, the damn choke lever, because of the way it actually goes in there. I have to twist it out, and I'm really not seeing an easy way of doing that, but I'm going to give it a try. My feeling is I have a better than even chance of being able to achieve what I need to do. The first thing I got to do is get rid of the throttle cable, get it off of there. Okay, and it also is very much like a 372, the way the linkage works. And I'll get in there with a pair of forceps, or whatever you want to call these damn things, and I'll be able to get that right out of there. But that way the carburetor is mounted is almost the same as like a 385 or an X-Torque. I'm going to document some more weirdness. This right here is how the wire goes in through here, and this kind of goes in like this. And it's a little different in that the high and low are below and the idle's above. And notice how the wire comes out right there through that groove. And also notice how the wire comes up through here, so it's totally captured. So this comes straight out like that, and then the wire is free, comes up like this. Little details like that can cost you if you don't take the time to look at them. And see it? How it comes right out. You got to be careful to put that stuff out and get it out of the way before you start tearing things apart, because really that's how you ruin small but sometimes expensive parts. So the next thing I'm going to do is pull out this wire right here. Just get the stuff out of the way. Alright, that's an awful lot of screw for just a connection. Alright, what I'm going to do now is take the screws out for the intake horn. And this is kind of interesting. I'm going to leave it if I can. I don't know if this comes up and out or not for the cylinder. But these are like rubber vibration damping type devices underneath there. Well, I discovered there's a couple more bolts You got this one here that comes from the bucking spike, but then you have one here, then the 4 that surrounds there. So you got 4, 5, 6, 7 K-screws that got to come out of this damn thing. Those bearings are fine. There's nothing wrong with them. Notice that it's flush, but on this side the seal is recessed. Those are little details that you got to pay attention to. Now, of course, when I split the saw in half, guess what? I had a tank full of bar oil, so now I have a freaking mess. And yes, my Chinese K-splitter was just big enough to surround the crank. My Swedish one was not. I gotta clean up this oil. You know, one of these events that I wish I had the camera going and I forgot was I brought a chilled crank out. You can still see the frost on it. And I heated up the bearing with my heat gun. And wouldn't you know, it just dropped right in. Made that job really, really easy. So now what I need to do is get the other half of the cases on there, doing the things I normally do, and reassemble the saw, and I'm going to be a much happier person. Now, while this crank is still chilled, maybe I'll get lucky and this will slip right on there, same as the other half did. You know, I'm not quite organized yet this morning, so this is not, I just, as a lark, I wanted to see if it would do it, and sure enough it did. So I'm just about as surprised as anyone else would be. Now, interestingly enough, these cases come with the bearings installed, and that's a good thing because they're a little bit unique. This is like the 385s as well. The PTO side bearing is a little bit unique. I'm going to assemble this set of cases with a standard gasket, which I have somewhere, and some 1194. Just a very thin film. So when a saw counts, like this saw counts in my mind, I'm going to take that extra step and make it as absolutely reliable a build as I possibly can, even if it's above and beyond what stock would be. Okay, after the 1184, I need to use these. Okay, location pins go here. God, that feels like it's not. That feels better.
They all happened in the same year. You tell me what year it all happened. Travis Tritt, it's a great day to be alive.
Okay. So now we are getting into the crux of it. Alright, to review, I split these cases and pulled the crankshaft out and put it in the refrigerator, actually the freezer, and chilled it, and was able to have it just drop right into the PTO side after I warmed up that bearing just a little bit with a heat gun. And then this side, I warmed it up, but I had to give it a little of assistance with a puller. But it went together pretty smooth. And I used 1184 along with a standard gasket. And it's centered well enough. I'm not going to tap it. And the bearings are nice and free. Using that method to put the cases together is really the best way, because it doesn't let you bind the bearings up because you're pulling against the inner race of the bearings, so they don't bind. So at this point, now we have to go back to I guess final assembly. But I wanted to let this dry and set up a little bit before I cut those tabs off, and then I can start reassembling this saw. And I was successful in being able to pull off the top end and all the carb and all that stuff entirety. in its entirety. That'll save some time, but it also keeps me from having to break seals. You know. Now there's some things I need to get put together before I put that cylinder on because I need access. Things like these anti-vibe springs, and there's a bunch of rubber bits and pieces that I need to put back together as well. And I also have to put the seals in. So I'll probably do the seals first and then work my way from there. Well, I'm afraid I'm forced to make a tool here because I really don't see an easy way of using anything else we have. So what I'm going to do is take the other side of my 372 tool, chuck it and drill a hole in there and see if I can't come up with a reasonable seal tool there. Open up that just a little bit. Not exactly precision machining, but you know, this is not exactly precision work. So that's what we have. I don't know how much of that you actually got. Well, it worked. Here's that seal sitting right in there. That's pretty close. I opened that up and I did the diameter, a few thousandths more than the crankshaft itself. Popped right in. I recessed the seal on the PTO side as far as the factory case was. And did the same thing on the flywheel side. Recessed it as far as the factory case was as well. So basically I matched what the factory case looked like with the seals. I'm ready to start assembling more things. So set the oil pickup tube in there. This is a breather. It sets right in there. Tap that in flush. Little things like that can be a real pain in the neck, you know. Just details. You know, I think I spent more time putting in these rubber pieces than I did the entire rest of the saw. But you have one here, here, here. These are rubber bumpers that surround the handle. That one came out easy, but this one here was a freaking nightmare. That was a pain in the neck to put that one in. So with those rubber bumpers in, I mean, I can start putting the handle on pretty quick. I think I'm going to do oil pump and drive just to get that system closed up next. Now I always set these in, you know, kind of loose, but on the oil pumps where it actually has to seal on that pickup tube on this corner right here, I kind of start with that corner first when I start making my tightening sequence. Remember that washer is on the inside. Don't get crazy on this stuff either because it's really small threads. It's pretty easy to over tighten these. I'm not going anywhere. Of course, it's not quite as critical as on the 372s where they actually go in pierce the whole case and go right to the inside of the cases. So that's where that sits.
We go know when they want country. 1037 Q Country.
I don't know if you saw, but this is offset a little bit, so you offset it to the downside, so it's centered in that plate, which is also centered in your bar. So the next piece is this anti-vibe spring. You know, I think the next hardest thing I'm going to have to deal with is getting that choke lever in. I just have that bad feeling. You know, I kind of like the way this handle goes on. It just sort of sets right in there. You've got this anti-vibe spring down here at the bottom to start things. You know? Get tight. Tight like that. So what I did is I set the handle in first, tightened up the front anti-vibe, and then I set this in second, put the lines through, because it was easier to get the lines through with it separate. And now I've got these pins here that go in. Basically all they do is they limit how much travel the handle has when a person is really reefing on it. It's a big saw, so that happens, you know. And they don't go crazy tight, they just go in there firm like that. One on each side. And then I think what's next is including private ones like cable or communication lines, gas and electric lines, and in Jimmy's case, what would appear to have been an old septic line. This will never wash out. Nice convertible, Jimmy. Jimmy didn't know about Effective CD LLC. Now you do. Call Effective CD LLC, the damage prevention specialists. Call 1-800. Well, it may not look like it, but we're actually closing in on being done because I did this whole thing as one big shot. I want you to look inside that cylinder. Look at that quad port. So one of the things I always wondered, this one actually has been scored a little bit. I wonder why. I wonder if it was set up lean. God, it doesn't have a lot of time, so I don't know why it would be scored. It's not bad, but what's interesting is the scoring is on the intake side, not the exhaust. So I don't know why. We'll just have to get it fired up and see how it was set on the tune. May have been set a little bit lean. It looks like a cold seized to me, where maybe it got fired up and run real hard cold. So, alright. I think what I'm going to do is stock gasket like you would expect, and 1194 as a supplement. You know, just like I did with the other cases. Kind of do a dry run here. See if I can get this down in here. How much of a hassle this is going to be. Yeah. See, I think I can do it. I'm going to drop the little oil in the bearings like I always do. See if we can make this whole thing work. And took the carbon off the piston. A little bit of oil on this wrist pin before I set it in there. Make sure it's nice and smooth. It is. See, I don't like that. I do not like having the wrist pin where it's sitting on the side. I want it either a top or bottom. You know, so I turn that one to the bottom. I don't like the concept of the inertia taking this and opening it up just a little bit, you know, because it can. There it goes. So I'm going to turn that down so it's at the bottom, like the other side. You know? I also like to put a little bit of goop. Look how thin that is back there. Just isn't a lot of sealing surface area. That just makes me so nervous. Okay, let me get some on the base of the cylinder. See, I think that was leaking. I honestly think that cylinder was leaking. Boy, I wish I had the smarts fast enough to put on camera, but it looks to me like it had lifted up just a little bit. It was blowing out the base of that gasket. I think this 1184 will probably help that. Make it paint thin. Oil on the inside of the cylinder. Let's see if I can't get this to set right down in there. Damn, I think I got it first time. Looks like I got it. Start settling this down a little bit, and while the cylinder is still up a little bit, you know, I can take care of things like fuel line and throttle cable. Okay, I don't know if I got that on film. That damn thing settled right down in there. Kind of on film. So now I got to get the screws on. I usually set this on its side. Looks good. Looks good. Start tightening these things. They don't have a T-handle in this American size. I have metric stuff. They don't have any of this English stuff.
Not so strong with Mark Hamill. He was duped by Star Wars. Find out more at 1037qcountry.com. I'm Nikki. KCLD, lights come on.
Start with that. Let it sit in there for a little bit. Get the rest of this stuff hooked up. See how it feels. Make sure I get the right screws in the right places. Yeah. I gotta get another one of those really short screws right there. See, this one didn't have a screw in here. And I think I understand why there wasn't one in there. Interferes with the flywheel, I do believe. I think what I'm going to do is grind back that head some. You know, it's pretty much together. Gonna have to put the handle on and fire it up.
Sunday, July 31st at Agava. We're not having a party just because it's a party.